History in the making. Danielle Smith unveils 2026 referendum that could change everything. In the months following the April 2025 federal snap election that saw Mark Carney become Canada's new Prime Minister, a quieter but equally significant political shift has been unfolding in Alberta. Premier Danielle Smith has launched a sweeping public consultation process that could culminate in a referendum in 2026, one that might dramatically reshape Alberta's relationship with the rest of Canada. This initiative, known as Alberta Next, is not just about testing public opinion. It's about asking Albertans to take a direct role in deciding the future of their province. For some, it's overdue. For others, it's raising serious questions about national unity. At the heart of this initiative is the idea that Albertans should have the final say on how they are governed, particularly when it comes to key services like policing, pensions, and immigration. Smith's government has set up mobile panels that will travel across the province, holding public forums and gathering feedback on a range of issues. These aren't abstract discussions. They're laying the foundation for concrete ballot questions that could appear in a province-wide vote. By 2026, Albertans could be deciding on whether to create their own provincial police service, whether to opt out of the Canada Pension Plan, or whether to push for new powers of provincial autonomy. One of the most hotly debated ideas on the table is the proposal to replace the Royal Canadian Mounted Police with a locally controlled Alberta Provincial Police Service. Currently, the RCMP provides frontline policing for most of Alberta's rural communities and several mid-sized towns. But many in the province, especially in more remote areas, feel the RCMP no longer meets their needs. Complaints include long response times, chronic understaffing, and the frequent transfer of officers to other provinces, making it difficult to build lasting relationships between communities and police. For these residents, a provincial force offers the promise of consistent, locally focused, and accountable law enforcement. Premier Smith argues that Alberta is being shortchanged under the current system. She points out that language requirements and federal promotion policies often limit the career prospects of Alberta-based officers, contributing to a cycle of turnover and disconnection. Meanwhile, cities like Calgary and Edmonton already have their own municipal police forces, and they wouldn't be affected by the change. The proposed shift would primarily benefit smaller communities that currently depend on federal policing. Smith frames the issue as one of fairness and practicality. If Alberta pays for the service, it should control how it's delivered. However, the transition wouldn't be simple or cheap. Creating a brand new provincial police force from the ground up involves substantial costs, equipment, training facilities, hiring processes, and infrastructure. There's also the loss of the federal contribution to the RCMP contract, which currently covers nearly a third of policing costs in Alberta. Critics warn this could put a major strain on the provincial budget. But Smith insists that municipalities won't bear the extra burden and that the long-term benefits of better local policing outweigh the short-term expenses. Beyond policing, the Alberta Next panel is also seeking input on the idea of a provincial pension plan. Smith has floated the possibility of Alberta pulling out of the Canada Pension Plan and managing its own retirement fund. Supporters argue Alberta contributes more than it receives and could offer better returns with a separate plan. Detractors counter that such a move could destabilize the national pension system and leave Albertans vulnerable to market swings. Smith has made it clear that this too will be put to the people. If the public wants it on the ballot, it will be there. What's especially noteworthy is the process itself. Smith isn't just introducing legislation and pushing it through the legislature. She's taking her cues from Albertans, inviting them into the room, listening to their ideas, and promising that nothing will move forward without their input. In an era when many Canadians feel disconnected from politics, Alberta Next is a striking example of bottom-up governance. Whether people agree with the proposals or not, they are being given the opportunity to shape them from the start. The larger political context only adds to the drama. Prime Minister Mark Carney, still in his early days leading a Liberal minority government, now faces the challenge of responding to increasingly assertive provinces. His economic credentials and international experience may win over parts of the country, but they don't erase the deep sense of alienation many Western Canadians feel. Alberta's moves under Smith aren't coming from nowhere. They reflect years of perceived federal overreach, stalled energy projects, and demographic shifts that have tilted national priorities eastward. For Danielle Smith, this moment is about delivering on promises she made during her leadership campaign and provincial election victory. Critics say she's playing a long game aimed at Alberta independence or trying to appease separatist sentiment. But she's countered that by pointing to the practical outcomes she's working toward: better policing, more control over pensions, and a more direct role for citizens in shaping policy. Lowering the threshold required to trigger referendums is just one way she's making it easier for grassroots voices to be heard. At the same time, there's undeniable tension. Some fear that these moves could backfire, fueling division, discouraging national investment, or isolating Alberta at a time when collaboration is crucial. Others believe this is exactly what federalism was designed to allow: provinces making choices that reflect their values and circumstances. Smith's political opponents may try to frame the referendum as a threat to national unity, but to her supporters, it's a sign of democratic renewal. With Alberta Next events continuing into 2026, the opportunity for ordinary people to shape the future is very real. Whether it's support for a provincial police service or questions around a pension plan, these discussions matter. This isn't just about a single referendum, it's about creating a culture of engagement, where government decisions reflect the lived realities of the people they affect. And that may be the biggest change of all. As the referendum approaches, Albertans will have to decide what kind of province they want to build and what kind of relationship they want with the rest of Canada. Danielle Smith has set the stage for what could be one of the most consequential public votes in the province's history. Whether these ideas succeed or fail at the ballot box, the process itself marks a dramatic shift in how government interacts with its citizens. For Alberta, and possibly for Canada as a whole, the era of passive politics may be ending. And if Smith's vision holds, the people, not just the politicians, will be in charge of what comes next.